plant-rich dairy from cows and sheep, even if you are lactose intolerant. Check this out, guys. I'm going to break it all down for you in this video. Why would you want to
This is going to be remarkably stupid.
consume dairy from cows or sheep in the first place, rather than just a plant milk? Isn't almond milk and oat milk, aren't these
Yeah, why would you not want to lower your risk of prostate cancer? I don't know, maybe I don't want prostate cancer. Maybe I want to be able to have sex and piss.
better for you? No way. If you guys have seen any of my content, you know that oat milk is often can contain seed oils, other additives, carrageenan, gums that could potentially mess up your gut. Almonds do
Cool story, dude.
not digest well for people, and none of those plant milks, even if it's just almonds and water, have the nutrients that are in these type of
Yeah, almonds don't have the nutrients that cause prostate cancer. That's why you want to drink milk.
dairy. What kind of nutrients am I talking about? Bioavailable proteins, whey protein, actual protein that you can use to build muscles and recover. We know that dairy protein helps support glutathione production, this major
Oh, here we fucking go. That's great. More mechanistic bullshit. Thank you, dumbass.
antioxidant in the human body. They have vitamin K2, a form of vitamin K found.
Yeah, no, dairy, like if we're talking about whole milk, it's not a significant source of K2, and it's not the very bioavailable form of K2 either.
Found almost exclusively in animal products, unless you eat fermented soybeans, which is called natto and looks kind of gross. Vitamin K2 is almost
Yeah, natto looks gross. Let's drink cow titty milk. That's not gross at all.
exclusively found in animal foods and is consistently associated with improved cardiovascular outcomes.
Nope, it is not. So, the evidence for vitamin K2 reducing cardiovascular events and heart disease is extremely mixed. Most of the positive data has only come out of one country, which I think was Germany. It was either Germany or the Netherlands. And you can find quite a lot of similar prospective cohorts where K2 is associated with greater heart disease incidence. When you look at randomized trials, however, K2 doesn't appear to have any protective effect. So nice cherry picking there, Paul. You're completely full of shit once again.
Yes, in the Rotterdam study, those people who had the most vitamin K2 in their diet had the lowest rates of cardiovascular mortality and calcification of the aortic valve, even though those people are eating animal foods like butter and milk and
Yeah, so they probably didn't adequately adjust for socioeconomic status. When you're looking at these studies on dairy products in Europe are more expensive. So richer, wealthier people end up having these sorts of foods. And wealth itself is protective against disease. So when you adjust for socioeconomic status, you typically don't see those positive correlations. Dodo donates.
cheese. Those foods look to be very consistently associated with better cardiovascular outcomes. I would argue
Nope, they are not. He again is just completely lying.
dairy is protective against cardiovascular outcomes, even
Oh, that's hilarious. So, by the way, you can tell when Paul literally is making shit up. So, Paul is super into like mechanistic research type crap. And when he can cherry pick prospective cohorts, you know, he'll do it, even though he says prospective cohorts are junk science, like he just did here with the Rotterdam study. He just made a claim that dairy, milk, and or cheese is protective against heart disease. There is no mechanistic evidence that he can point to. There is no prospective cohorts he can point to. Nothing. Literally no data whatsoever on the entire planet can he find a study showing dairy is protective against heart disease. So he didn't show any research. He just made the claim like a jackass.
even though it contains the much vilified saturated fat. Milk from animals also contains calcium, and I think it's important to balance
So does tofu.
calcium and phosphorus in your diet. So a lot of us eat lots of meat, which I think is a very healthy food for humans.
Yes, nice cholesterol, artery clogging, cancer causing meat. Clearly healthy.
And organs, these foods are high in phosphorus. Balancing that phosphorus with calcium from dairy is a good way to mimic what your ancestors have done historically, and I think that it's...
Sorry, like, this is the fucking guy who claims, oh, we should eat like our hunter-gatherer ancestors who would like hunt and, eat the entire animal. Hunter-gatherers didn't eat dairy, you fucking moron. That was something that people did in the Neolithic period once they started agriculture. So what is the basis for him claiming our ancestors ate milk? Like, this is something that would have popped up, only a few thousand years ago. Like, you're talking about less than 10,000 years of human evolution where people were eating dairy versus it's got to be like close to 2 million or more. Our ancestors were eating meat. So this guy is just such an idiot. If he's going to say, well, dairy's good for us because our ancestors ate it, then I guess all plant foods are good for us because our ancestors ate it.
It's a healthy choice from a biochemical perspective of your human body. The list of nutrients in milk is very long. There's also odd chain fatty acids. Milk contains riboflavin. The nutrients in milk...
So I love how they do this. They literally say, milk is food. You can eat it. Yes, just like any other fucking food, dipshit. How is that how is that a reason why milk is healthy for you? It's food, you can eat it, therefore it's healthy. Okay, I guess everything is healthy. McDonald's fucking bacon double cheeseburgers are healthy because they have nutrients. You can eat it and live.
Milk are myriad. Just understand that you consuming dairy is a better version of you. But there are a lot of us, including myself, who are lactose intolerant. So what do? There are many...
He's not lactose intolerant. If he can drink that much dairy, he's not lactose intolerant. He's just full of shit. This is like Blaha's lactose intolerance. Hugo the Greenball.
Many forms of dairy that are fermented, like kefir or yogurt.
Yeah, I know. Sean Baker has low testosterone. It's like extremely low too. It would even be considered hypogonadal for like an 80-year-old man.
Or cheeses that have little or no lactose. You can eat these foods and get all the benefits of dairy. Many of them even have the benefits of fermentation in terms of microbiome support, and you're not going to be worrying about...
Yeah, so there's really no good research on how fermented foods affect your gut microbiome or whether or not it's beneficial. So that's just, throwaway statement.
Ending up in the bathroom or farting around people that you care about, which is embarrassing. Just telling you guys how it is. So let's take it from the top. Cow's milk has about 12 grams of lactose per 8 ounces. Goat milk, which I love, has about 9 to 11 grams per 8 ounces, so maybe 10% less. Some people tolerate goat milk better than cow's milk, but there's not a huge difference in the amount of lactose in there. But when you get into the fermentation, let's start with kefir. I know most of you guys say kefir, but you're wrong. It's kefir. Ask any Bulgarian, but you can say kefir if you want. You say kefir, I'll say kefir. We're talking about fermented milk. Kefir is fermented milk for about 12 hours.
Dodo donated $2. Bro, Paul's such a little bitch, lol. Every time I see his face, I want to punch a hole in the wall. If dude was so proud of sucking mommy's titties from another species, he would show the process of his gay farm that does the artificial insemination. Yeah, well, we know Paul. He's just a lying, grifting dipshit. Like, the guy uploads workout videos, and he's getting outlifted by natural, girls who are in the fitness industry. He is so weak and skinny and pathetic and dumb. He debated Dr. Allo, the cardiologist, got absolutely fucking rolled, bro. And again, he's dodging a debate with me. He knows I'd absolutely smoke him in a debate. Ever since debating Dr. Allo, you don't ever see him debating anybody. So the guy's just a grifting loser. He doesn't believe half the shit he's saying. Like, he's doing this whole thing now too, where he's not really eating a carnivore diet. He's eating like a normal person diet, essentially. He's just eating, clean foods for the most part, like, no Oreos or anything, but he's just eating a mix of fruits and meat, and I think he is eating some vegetables. So when you see him like fucking promoting all this dairy and meat and shit, I don't even know if he's really eating as much meat and dairy as he claims. Like, it's a grift. He's making money off of it. He's partnered with Liver King. He's making money on supplements. He's just a fucking lying grifter. Thanks for the donation, though, Cracadino. Are people with bigger heads usually more intelligent? I see the trend, to be honest.
Maybe 24 hours at 78 degrees Fahrenheit with a special Kefir culture, which usually has more strains of bacteria and some eukaryotic organisms than a yogurt. But Kefir has significantly less lactose, 2 to 4 grams per 8 ounces of Kefir in lactose. So a lot of us who are lactose intolerant can drink Kefir without really getting it.
This study has nothing to do with whether or not people with lactose intolerance can drink fermented milk. This was a study on, I think, women only. Yeah, without diagnosed GI disorders. So this literally does not support his claim that people with lactose intolerance can consume fermented milk. This had nothing to do with lactose intolerance.
Any GI side effects or having the bloat or farting ending up in the bathroom.
Yeah, so these women didn't have GI disorders at the beginning of the study, and they didn't have lactose intolerance.
My favorite way to eat Kefir is in the morning with some honey. Super proud of our new lineage, raw, organic, glyphosate-free honey. I combine those two things in the morning before I surf, and that is my breakfast. Yogurt is a shorter fermentation at a higher temperature. Yogurt is often heated to around 140 degrees. Different cultures in yogurt versus Kefir, often less.
What do you think of, why do you think people say oysters are aphrodisiacs?
Yogurt is still healthy, and yogurt has around 4 to 6 grams of lactose per 8 ounces. It's fermented for a less amount of time. Fermentation means bacteria or eukaryotic organisms are eating the lactose in the milk and making lactic acid. That decreases the amount of lactose, which causes us symptoms. So yogurt is another great option. Greek yogurt, which is a concentrated form,
provides absolutely no evidence that people with lactose intolerance can consume yogurt.
Has even more protein and is probably even better in terms of lactose than a regular yogurt. Cheese is the real superstar when it comes to lactose content. A Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, which is always raw because it's
Parmesan cheese tastes like shit. The way it's made is super fucking gross. They use like the stomach of an animal to make it, and it tastes like shit. You can't really put it on anything. If you put on, like, it's not like you can have it with crackers or anything. It just tastes like crap.
It's that way from Italy. It has to be raw, and you can see it on the label. It'll say raw milk. It's usually from grass-fed cows. That has almost zero lactose, 0.1 grams of lactose per 1 ounce of cheese, which means if you eat 8 ounces of this cheese, you're not even getting 1 gram of lactose. That's definitely not going to trigger lactose intolerance symptoms in humans. Pecorino Romano, which is a sheep's cheese, also is usually raw. In fact, I think it has to be raw to be called Pecorino Romano. 0.1 grams per 8 ounces. No significant amounts of lactose in this cheese. An aged Swiss, which is one of my favorites, also 0.2 grams of lactose per ounce, which means not much lactose in this cheese. Any of the aged cheeses are going to be very easy to consume from a lactose perspective. These are not going to trigger lactose intolerance.
Or you could just eat nuts for cheese, which is better for you anyway.
And aged cheese has a lot of benefits. Some cheeses, like Jarlsberg or Emmentaler, are cultured with a specific bacteria.
You know, it's funny how Frank Tufano calls this guy a rat all the time, and then he's like obsessed with cheese.
That increases the amount of K2 in these cheeses massively. And that's been shown in multiple studies and found to be beneficial for humans. As I mentioned. So,
my God.
Swiss, Pecorino Romano, Parmigiano Reggiano, really any aged cheese more than 120 days is going to have very small amounts of lactose. Contrast this with soft cheeses like Camembert or Brie. Those could have more lactose and might trigger lactose intolerance symptoms. But all of these are great options for you, even if you are lactose intolerant. Some people feel that raw milk, which is unpasteurized milk, improves their lactose intolerance. It's something I've experienced personally, but we don't have any good
What did you say here?
lactose intolerance. Some are great options for symptoms. For Brie, those could have more lactose and might trigger lactose intolerance symptoms. But all of these are great options for you, even if you are lactose intolerant.
No. You haven't provided any research suggesting that.
Some people feel that raw milk, which is unpasteurized milk, improves their lactose intolerance. It's something
No, so Paul doesn't have lactose intolerance. He's lying about that. And secondly, there is a randomized trial looking at whether or not raw milk affects people with lactose intolerance. And it does the exact same way pasteurized milk affects people with lactose intolerance. Drinking raw milk will not improve lactose intolerance symptoms.
I've experienced personally, but we don't have any good studies to prove this right now. So if you're lactose intolerant and
You still need to do my 3 sit-ups. I'll do them later.
have access to some unpasteurized milk, some raw milk, try it out. Start slow with all of this. Just have a teaspoon or a tablespoon of kefir or yogurt, a couple of bites of cheese, and see how you react. Again, remember that.
Do Frank and Paul hate each other because they had a secret but intense, passionate affair? You know, I bet Frank would have preferred that. I don't think so, though, but that does sound like something Frank would get into.
That the nutrients in these foods are unique. They're beneficial for humans, and getting some form of cow, sheep, or goat dairy, or buffalo dairy, or camel's dairy in your diet is going to improve your health. There are tons of studies which show this, and
Show one single study. Oh, no. If there's no evidence, Paul won't show it.
these are way better than plant milk. So I want you guys to be able to eat these
Show us the data. Show us the data comparing dairy milk to plant milk. You won't do that.
things. Don't fear this, even if you're lactose intolerant. Some people who are lactose intolerant can't tolerate milk no matter what, so you might not be able to do raw milk. If you're worried about contamination of raw milk, find a farm who you trust, and remember that there are actual studies of raw milk like the
I'm sorry. What is that going to do? Find a farm that you trust? What does that even mean? Protective effect of farm milk consumption on childhood asthma. So there is a little bit of evidence suggesting that consuming raw milk in childhood might prevent allergies. So like you're less likely to be allergic to peanuts, you're less likely to have asthma, stuff like that. There really isn't any good data on that. It's still being kind of explored, but there's a few small studies. Usually they're just case reports or case series. So
Gabriella study and others showing that kids who grow up on or off farms drinking raw milk versus pasteurized milk have lower rates of asthma, eczema, and allergies. So I think that
yeah, so by the way, that's a confounding factor. So if you live in the city versus if you live on a farm, you're going to be exposed to like different like bacteria, pathogens, lifestyle is different. You might be exposed to less pollution, lead. That might be why you see lower instances of allergies with people drinking raw milk, because they're more likely to live in a rural setting on a farm on a farm, they're less likely to be exposed to lead or just air pollution, or it might have something to do with them just being exposed to like more bacteria because they're, you know, living next to animals or something. Like, who the fuck knows?
Isn't it interesting that in your debate with Milk Jar, he wouldn't concede that murder should be legal, and now it's likely that he's been murdered?
Yeah, that is pretty ironic. They're all LARPers, right? Like when Sfarage says, oh, I think murder should be legal, or I want to get rid of the law, the police are for pussies. As soon as he has like any problem personally. So I remember a vegan attacked him at a veg fest because he was triggering a bunch of vegans eating raw meat. He threatened to call the police. I remember he trespassed in a vegan restaurant when he was asked to leave, and the woman shoved him, and then again he threatened to call the police. There was a guy who attacked him when he was stalking his girlfriend, Luna, and that was probably like a family member or her boyfriend at the time. Again, he contacted the fucking police. Like they're just full of shit. They don't even believe that themselves. Thanks for the donation, though, Speed Racer. 21st Savage.
I think there's a good amount of evidence, that study and many others, to suggest that raw milk has a unique place in the human diet. So if you want to try raw milk, look for a farmer. You can go to realmilk.com. I have no association with that website. It's a Weston A. Price website, and that will tell you where raw milk is near you.
Oh, yes, Weston A. Price, a very reputable source.
In some states, you can actually buy raw milk in the grocery store. Yay, California. It's one of the one things they get right. But most states in the US, you cannot buy raw milk in the grocery store. You actually have to befriend a farmer and join a co-op or a farm share to get raw milk. Raw milk, raw kefir. These are my favorite. When I'm doing cheeses, I prefer raw cheeses for all the same reasons. The research looks like when you have a whey protein, which is undenatured, a whey protein that has not been heated, that is better for the immune system in some ways in humans. That gets a little granular, beyond the scope of...
This is, okay. Yeah, so results revealed that denaturization of all three proteins occurred at 72 degrees Celsius and progressed with increase in temperature holding time, about 59%, 12%. Okay. I don't know why that matters. Completely irrelevant. Loss of allergy protective capacity of raw cow's milk after heat treated coincides with loss of immunologically active proteins, and I'm assuming this is like a rodent study. Yep. Animal model says it right there. So last I checked, human beings aren't rats or any other animal, we're human beings. So he just linked a study on animal model.
That gets a little granular, beyond the scope of this video. But remember that raw milk is great if you're lactose intolerant and you can't tolerate raw milk.
Nope.
Kefir is fermented, yogurt is fermented, significantly less lactose, and aged cheeses you can eat with no problems, guys. Another thing to consider with dairy and the benefits of calcium beyond the calcium-phosphorus ratio is that eating calcium with red meat can mitigate the absorption of iron. Some of us eat a lot of red meat and we're worried about iron absorption. We're checking our ferritin levels. Adding dairy to red meat, whether it's cheese or cheeseburger or drinking kefir or yogurt or milk with your meat, mitigates iron absorption somewhat and can be a way to balance these things. So again, calcium-phosphorus ratio, calcium with your iron.
By the way, you wouldn't have to do that if your iron sources were plant-based.
Can mitigate the absorption of iron a little bit. I don't think iron is harmful for humans in reasonable amounts, but there are some of us, myself included, that seem to avidly absorb iron, and I keep track of my ferritin levels. It doesn't mean that I stop eating red meat because I feel like red meat is one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. It doesn't mean that I stop eating organs like liver or heart. It just means that I keep an eye on my ferritin levels and I often try and consume dairy when I'm eating these foods. If you guys find this content helpful...
Yeah, that was just stupid. Yellow